Hey, Remington, have you noticed lately that businesses, they do the same thing over and over again?
Yeah, it happens all the time. And sometimes you ask them why, and they're like, "Cuz."
Yeah, I don't get it. And there's this thing like, do you ever feel like people are just growing blindly?
All the time.
Yeah, and I think that there's a way that we can grow smart. That's really what we're going to talk about. But let's go ahead and get into this.
Are you immersed in a sea of business advice and education, but not sure what to embark on first? Instead of adding to the ocean of information, we're here to help you navigate it like a pro. The Wayfinding Growth podcast will help you take a deep dive into new actionable strategies, tools, and tactics to help you grow. So start charting a course for business growth as you explore a better way to grow further, faster, with your hosts, Remington Begg and George B. Thomas.
And we are back, and I'm super excited because this week's episode is all about the why, the how, the who of predictable performance improvement. Now, you might be, as a viewer, listener, think, what the heck is that? Well, stick around because you're going to find out. We're going to be talking to the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Pete Caputa from Databox. So, hey, it's all hands on deck. Let's hoist the sails and set a course for your company's growth voyage. Remington, how excited are you today?
Dude, I'm pretty stoked. Me and Pete go way back, and then Databox is so much fun. So I'm just really excited to talk about all of this goodness that's about to happen. So today I'm super excited to welcome you, Pete, into the Wayfinding Growth podcast. This is going to be fun to let all our listeners and viewers learn a little bit more about you. But first, before we get started, who are you? Talk a little bit about your journey of what brought you here and where you're planning on going personally and professionally.
Wow, how long I got for that?
Forever.
Hey,
Forever.
let's
So
go.
also, I'm excited to be here as well. I think the two of you make a hell of a combo. I'm glad you guys have hooked up, started working professionally together. And I'm specifically excited for this conversation because Impulse is such a power user of Databox. And kind of teasing or really pre-launching what we're about to launch, which is this methodology around predictable performance. So I've been CEO of Databox now for a little more than a year and a half. Before that, I spent 9 years at HubSpot. Before that, I had my own little software company, but in reality, we were a marketing agency, marketing services company, because the software is too complicated to use. So we kind of used it on their behalf and ended up like building websites, doing SEO, doing email marketing, doing event marketing, which is really the core of our software. And so I've been doing this internet marketing stuff for about 20 years now. And what I've seen is there are so many different ways that you can really drive performance of your business via internet marketing. And most companies are doing literally the same thing they did several years ago. And it still works. Like you're still improving their performance gradually, but they're really missing out on an opportunity to more predictably improve metrics faster. And so that's what we're focused on here going into the end of the year here in 2018.
Remington, I'm
Sweet.
super excited. We're talking to another OG. This is like back-to-back OGs in the space. Oh, man.
Right. Yeah, Canceling I saw in the last episode, right? David Cancel.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Drift, formerly HubSpot as well.
Yeah. That's it. Here's the thing. We could probably
There's a
just do
theme.
episodes for like the rest of our life on previously worked at HubSpot employees in companies moving forward. Just saying.
There's actually a tweet thread going on. Joe Jerome from Brand Builder Solutions started it the other day. He was like listing all the CEOs that formerly worked at HubSpot, and I think it got up to like 12 companies. Plus, then there's like 5 or 6 more CMOs that kind of came out of HubSpot as well. So yeah, there's Brian always had that vision. Actually, I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but for years he'd stand up at company meetings and show this chart of all of the former executives from Parametric Technologies Corporation, PTC, where he kind of grew his career. And he showed all of the companies that they ran, which was a very impressive group around Boston of tech companies and beyond Boston as well. And so he always talked about how he wanted HubSpot to be this incubator of talent that would go on to build, many more businesses in and around Boston. So.
Yes, that's that's something that is pretty apparent when you start to see it. The culture, it's something to be said about the HubSpot culture too, that's kind of like exuding this momentum. So it's really neat to see and witness, especially being around HubSpot for as long as we all have. So bittersweet, but cool at the same time. Cool. The first section that we get into here, and thank you for that awesome intro, is navigational instruments. So what we want to talk about today is, just like wayfinders have charts, compasses, chronometers, we want you to have the right tools to navigate your teams for success. So the tools of the week, let's talk about predictable performance improvement, and like, what tools do you have to have in order to make that kind of thing happen?
Oof. I think it depends a lot on the activities that you're doing, right? If you're doing video marketing, you need some kind of video marketing tool, whether that's Wistia or Vidyard or 23 or just YouTube, right? You need something there. If you're doing social, organic stuff, right, you're probably going to do the big three. If you have a more visual product, you're going to use Pinterest. If you're doing ads, you probably starting with that, Google ads and Facebook ads, maybe Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. You have a website, right? You're going to use some kind of analytics tool there, such as Google Analytics, maybe HubSpot as well. And so it just keeps going and going. Like, by the time you list off all the things that you might use in your marketing, sales, and service, I think most companies are in the high single digits, if not, double digits for slightly bigger companies. You guys have a heck of a stack. I know you probably use, it would probably take you another 10 minutes to list off all the tools that you use.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So you're talking about all the things where all these metrics live, but so let's bring it back to how do you actually start the concept of performance improvement? Like, what in your mind has to happen? Because we've got all these different tools, and I think we have a list. We have a going list in Slack right now. It's 36 different tools in our stack that we're touching at least once a week. So on your side, how do you tile those in for that predictable performance?
Yeah, so you know the answer to this, right? And part of the problem is that data is all over the place, so you got to pull it together. Obviously at Databox, that is what we do. That is how we help companies. And so we use Databox. I know you use Databox, but yeah, for our own business, we use Google Analytics very heavily. We use HubSpot. We use Intercom for in-app messaging and chat. We use Help Scout for our help system. We're using Wistia. We're using YouTube. We use all the social networks to push our content, interact with prospects. We have Mixpanel for analytics in our app. We have Stripe for our payments. I know I'm missing 10 more, but it goes on and on. So we pull all of that performance data into our system in Databox, and that's exactly what agencies use this for us, right? And I know you use HubSpot heavily, using Google Analytics. You guys are using Wistia and YouTube. I know you use social. I know you're heavy on the ad platforms. I think we are about to launch our Harvest connector, which you will be excited to use. I know you've been asking for that one. So that's in progress. So all that, once you get all that data into one spot, then you can actually start paying attention to it. Because if you think about it, if you had to log into 36 different tools to see how things are performing, you couldn't do it. You'd spend all day doing that, and by the time you did all that data and what you saw in there might be irrelevant, because the next day you might change your strategy. Right. In which case, the following day you're going to log in, and that doesn't even count. You log into Google Analytics, God bless you if you know what you're doing in there. But then you probably have to look at 10 screens in Google Analytics, right? Same thing with HubSpot. Now, HubSpot's done a better job with dashboards, but still, you're going to click in, and you're going to end up going back to your dashboard, different places. So to really drill in, it's not easy. And so the way Databox works is that we identify those key KPIs, those key metrics that are important out of each tool, and we automatically pull them out for you. And so you can literally drag and drop them onto a dashboard, or just click them and choose a dashboard that's already pre-built for you, so that you can actually, an individual human can monitor their data in a reasonable amount of time and effort.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
normal humans being able to understand the data, because one of the things that I've always said, Pete, in our space is we need an interpreter, right? Like everybody talks
Yeah.
about big data and analytics, and they look at the numbers and they don't know jack of what it means or what they're supposed to do after they actually see those numbers. And I really like how simple Databox is to use, first of all, and then how it is just this visual display and kind of points you in the right direction. I will say too, during that section, I felt like I was at the Tony or the Grammys, or like it was like, oh, I know I'm forgetting somebody, but of course, my producer Euistia and my director, like, and so that was fun. Hey, you know what else is fun is our marketing, our website, and our video audits. That's right. If you're trying to figure out what works for your company, then go ahead and make sure you reach out to us at Impulse Creative. Hey, that's how we do these shows. We go ahead and do these audits. We help you. We help demystify how you can be successful. And I'm sure we'll have a conversation about Databox and being able to visualize your data as well. Pete, we're moving into the section that is charting your course. And of course, it's not really your course because your course is awesome, dude, but the course of the companies that are watching and viewing this episode. And I'm really curious, when it comes to this predictable performance improvement, who needs to be the captain of the ship, like at the helm, making sure that they're heading in the right direction, looking at the right things?
It absolutely needs to be the leadership team that drives it and understands the importance of it and coordinates it. The whole company needs to be involved, right? What you don't want is to set up a system where the bosses say, go do this, and everybody just jumps, right? You want your team to be engaged. And I think that's the whole reason to have a methodology around how you approach improving your performance. So if you want, I'll share the steps that we're about to roll out in this methodology. So we look at it as 5 steps, and like there are lots of systems out there that preach some of this stuff. If you haven't read Traction or the 4 Disciplines of Execution or Metrics Matter, like those are great books, and I have to give credit where credit's due. Like a lot of those concepts that we're baking into our methodology kind of are referenced in there. We're doing it a little more I think we have a different spin on it in that most of those systems are very periodic, whereas we're all about real-time improvement. But there's 5 big steps to the methodology we're about to roll out. First one is choosing or selecting your key initiatives for the quarter. The second one is setting goals around those initiatives on a monthly basis. The third one is adapting your plan on a weekly basis, so like being agile and actually looking at your data and making decisions. The fourth one is constantly monitoring your progress. So like once you set those goals and adapt that plan, you want to see, is it making a difference, right? Is it making a difference on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? And finally, it's share results as they happen. I think a lot of companies do this monthly reporting process. And by the time the good news is reported, it's 2 weeks late. Everybody already knows. And by the time the bad news is reported, everybody's like, what the hell? Why didn't we know about this and fix this 2 weeks ago? And so we're all about helping companies identify the wins and identify the potential problems that are causing performance to go sideways or off track.
That's awesome. That's really great. So I love that. Where was this 2 weeks ago? I've come across that a lot of time. And that's one of the things I think the clarity around the projected path of your stats, especially when you can visualize, is really important too. So Pete, where do you think most companies are right now? I know earlier you mentioned a whole heck of a lot of different platforms, but where are most companies at this point right now, do you think?
Yeah.
Or in your opinion?
Our focus is small businesses for the most part, small mid-size. We have a handful of Fortune 500s to use our software, but like 90% of our customers are on the smaller side. And marketing agencies, like literally half of our customers are smaller marketing agencies. And so we see a very wide range of sophistication. But for the most part, companies are changing their strategy, but maybe once a year. Like they're not in any way agile. They're not really adapting to the data. They're sending reports to bosses or clients as just like an activity they do at the end of of a month or a quarter,
Mm.
as a way to say, hey, we did work and it worked, right? They're not purposely sitting there saying, how can we maximize this performance? What new things should we try? How should we tweak this process? What things that we did over the last 6 months worked really well, and how do we double down on those? Very few people are actually asking those questions and adapting their plan or strategy. So that's what I see. I don't know what you see. What do you see?
So Pete, I'm super curious, and I would say that probably very much the same thing as we work with businesses, and that's why I think this next question is so vitally important. And I want you to envision, I don't know if you drink Corona, but I love those Corona commercials where that's like the white sandy beach and the hot chick and the tiki hut and all that good stuff. I want you to think about like where these businesses should journey. So you wake up one morning and this is what you visualize, that businesses have finally arrived when it comes to this predictable performance improvement and understanding what they have to do with companies. Like, what are they doing? What are they thinking? What are they saying and seeing in your mind?
I think like there's a simple step to this. It's literally whipping out your calendar and writing down the activities you need to do in order to manage your business into the calendar. Actually blocking out time. I think the first one that needs to be done is blocking off time before the end of the quarter for everyone in the company that's at least manager and above, to actually sit down and write what it is they want to focus on for the following quarter. What are those maybe 3 things that they think that they can do that will drastically improve the performance of the company? And that list is going to be really long, but I think it's important to pick a small number, depending on, of course, the number of resources that you have. And so we do that every quarter at Databox, every department. We have 6 directors. There's the co-founder and myself. So we have 8 people that are thinking strategically about how we move the business forward. And every quarter, we're looking at what we did in the last quarter and talking about what we're going to do in the following quarter to really move the needle on the numbers. So I don't know if that answers the exact question, but I think that's the actionable tip that I'd give for anybody that feels like they want better control over their performance of their business.
Yeah. So, we actually, I think in the world of digital marketing and like agency life, I think our cycles have to be quicker than quarterly. To your point, most companies are doing this yearly. So we're on a 30-day cycle for our marketing. So like all of our stats in Databox show the last 30 days. So anytime, like I don't care about whether it's an up week or a down week. I care about a positive increase across the board for stats. Yep. So if we see a dip, then we need to know, like, wait, what's going on? Or vice versa. We see a spike. Let's own it. Let's make it happen. So for me, to answer your question, Pete, it's clarity. Where companies need to be going. Like at any point, I can look up at any one of the data boards. So again, shout out to the tool just being super intuitive and easy. We've filtered out all of the noise, and now what we've got are the things that we actually care about that influence other decisions. So that clarity is huge. And I know as CEOs, we can stay up all night wondering, like, wait, did that get done? Where does this at? Or how are we doing? That kind of thing.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah,
Awesome.
I think you guys are power users of our kind of anytime, anywhere access capabilities. You have TVs up on your office walls, right, where you can see your stats and all that. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yep. Cool. So now's the time for us to talk about our weekly show notes and monthly deep dive newsletter. So you got to make it super easy for us to see a little +1 in our Databox dashboard for our newsletter subscribers. So every week we're going to send links to these tools that we talk about, free downloads, resources, and we're here to help you crush your company's success. So once a month, George and I even spend some time writing an email, and we'll put that together in regards to some of the highlights of all these episodes. So make sure you go to any one of the Wayfinding Growth pages. You can go to wayfindinggrowth.com and sign up today.
You know what my highlight is, Remington? My highlight is that we have finally arrived on the shore of Captain Killing It, where we get to talk about somebody who's either killing it in a good... I do love that. I'm not even going to do it twice today, but I do love that. And we're going to talk about somebody who is #killing it on the internet, either in a good way or a bad way. Pete, is there somebody, when you think of business-wise or maybe social-wise, maybe the topic that we're talking about or not, like somebody that is either like Oh man, that's super sad. Or ooh, they're pretty awesome. That runs through your mind immediately.
Yeah. So, do you know Profitwell? They're a SaaS, software as a service subscription um, reporting tool.
Yeah.
And obviously we do reporting and we integrate with our payment system, so I can report on our own numbers inside Databox, but I also use Profitwell. They have a free version of it, and so there's really no reason not to use it. They also have several other paid software offerings that they sell exclusively to SaaS companies. What I love about what they're doing is the consistency and the focus. Like, because they only sell to SaaS companies, their content is all about software as a service. And there's just you would think, given the multi-billion-dollar industry, there's very few companies publishing insightful content about how to grow your SaaS company. There's plenty of companies out there that target SaaS, and they might do it in a little area, and the other thing is they do all these video. They do a lot of video marketing, and just like you guys do, and it's very insights packed with actual data and performance and how to do things and how to think about things. So I really think they're doing a great job. So much so that even though it's SaaS, selling to SaaS companies is not our focus, we are doing an integration with them because I just want to do co-marketing with them. It's just
cool.
They're fun, they're local, and so it's yeah, no, I think they're crushing it.
Sweet. Awesome. So now we get to talk about the Bermuda Triangle. So when we're talking about the Bermuda Triangle here, what makes predictable performance improvement seem impossible for companies? Like, okay, I want to get actionable, but what do they run into, or what are some friction points that you typically see?
I think the big one is just a lack of understanding that data can really actually be used in near real time to make decisions that will drive performance even higher than you expect. And so I think most people that are running companies don't realize that feedback loop, especially with internet marketing and internet enabled sales, there's such a tight and quick feedback loop there about what's actually working, that it's set up perfectly for improving and tweaking things over time. And so I don't think most people actually get that. Or maybe they do and they just don't know how to take advantage of it. But maybe they're so busy doing what they do, or that they forget. It's interesting because a lot of the work we do is helping agencies better show their value to clients, and I think a lot of times it's the agency that's the impediment. We have, as you guys know, we have a feature in the product that allows you to pick any metric that we can pull from those 65 plus tools and set a goal on it. And we'll show you what a reasonable goal is based on your previous performance. And you can set it for a daily, a weekly, a monthly, quarterly, annual goal, whatever time period you want. And then once you set that goal, you can plot your performance against goal on a daily basis to see, are we trending to hit our goal for the month or not? And we have the hardest time getting some agencies to actually do that. And the blockage is that they're afraid to ask their client what a good goal should be, or even bring it up and saying, hey, we should do this goal, because they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if they're actually be able to hit it. And they're so afraid of not hitting the goal that they don't even bother setting it or having the conversation about it. And I think that I've seen companies on the other side of that who are really good at that. And every one of them has better retention, and some of them are amazing at growing the revenue per client that they get. And so I know that it works. I know we're on the right side of truth and justice. Not to mention that the more work you do for a client and the more you hit their goals, the better they're going to perform, and all that's the right thing to do for the client. So I know we're on the right side there. It's really frustrating to get agencies to have that conversation.
Yeah, I think that candor of this sucks or this doesn't, this doesn't suck. and having an actual like target to go for is can be a very uncomfortable thing in a lot of conversations I've had with agencies and companies for that matter. So when you put it, the what gets measured gets improved thing is a really big testament that I kind of run by. And I think that can scare the crap out of people, especially if they're thinking on that monthly or yearly cycle.
Yeah, you probably see it where the pirate is actually more the client, right? Maybe they don't want to be accountable, or they don't want to have to worry about it, right? They got enough that they got to worry about.
Yeah, so I think, and that's where I'm excited to hear more about your methodology and everything, because I think a lot of times people don't know what they don't know. And I know when we do our workshops, or we'll uncover, we'll uncover their Google Analytics traffic and realize that like organic is a really low number versus where it should be, north of 50%, for instance. Like a simple pie chart would have told them that months ago. Right. But because they're just looking at a hard number and they're not referencing the previous period, it's one of those things that they don't really understand or know about. But the other side is, it's essentially chaos when you think of what are all the metrics I should be caring about. And I think sometimes the clients do run into, well, I don't even know what we should be like, or they're doing so well where they're lucky and they're in an upcycle. The upcycle isn't defined by making those decisions. It's like, yeah, this is working, but you'll never even see the down cycle happening. So yeah. But targets are scary because if you don't make them, then you feel like less of a man. But at the same time, you also want to make sure that
less
you're
of an
able
accomplished
to,
person.
Hit
Yes.
him.
I get that. And actually, I saw like a headline somewhere, like people that set SMART goals are less happy at work or something like that. So it's like there's this anti-goal faction out there too that maybe they're the real pirates, but I don't think that's a popular opinion.
The participation trophies are probably the same people.
Right, exactly.
All right. So I got another question. You don't know this is coming. So I've been watching Databox for a while, and I've been really excited to kind of see the company grow as you came on as CEO, especially. So I know you guys hit a couple metrics yourself in regards to growth over the past year and stuff like that. And from what I understand, it's true growth. You guys aren't like going out and getting crazy funding, and you're actually building your customer base, and you're growing like a lot of other companies are growing.
Yeah. Right.
So do you mind sharing a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that growth story and like some of the decisions that you made in order to make that happen? I think this is a nice little bonus that we could spin up in the episode.
Yeah. So when I joined a little over a year and a half ago, the company had previously raised around $4 million, a little less. Okay. There was still a bunch of cash in the bank, but they had also spent a good bit of it. And there was a single like teens in terms of number of customers. Like there were not many customers at all. The founder of the company had to actually let like the whole go-to-market team go, like maybe 6-8 months before I joined, and kind of reboot. And they pivoted away from like enterprise sales focus, really custom. Building custom dashboards for enterprise, specifically around mobile, more towards SMB to a self-service model, much lower cost, and much more bespoke, or like serving a specific market, specifically marketing agents, marketers. And so we built out of the box integrations instead of like custom integrations like before. So it was a big change. They had started to make some progress, but very early. I raised a bit of money as well when I joined from some of the HubSpot executives, a few seed stage type firms that invest in that. Not a whole lot, but enough to like give us 2 years to kind of figure things out. And like I literally started, it was just me. Shortly after we hired 2 people, one in marketing, one in customer success here. I did have help from the team in Slovenia, which is where the product team is. We also have the customer support team, most of the customer support team there now. And so I had to figure out like, what would sell. Literally like giving the software to people that I knew, like you guys, right? And saying, hey, would you would you like try this out and tell me what you think you could use it for? And like,
Sure.
exchange for feedback and a little co-marketing, like you can use it for a little while for free. And so we did that with like 20 agencies for a few months. Once we kind of had some success rates, produced some case studies, like we were able to, get a few hundred, like low 100 customers. I remember the 100 customer. It was a big milestone for us. And, at that point I started scaling up marketing. One of the sales managers from HubSpot ended up joining us of his own volition. I did not recruit him. And so he's been selling. So we're at this point, we're up to 750 paying customers. It took us a little more than a year and a half. It hasn't been a smooth line, like perfect. It's certainly not exponential yet. We've had some months where it's like woohoo, and then some months where it's a little flat.
Sure.
We have a pretty small team, so like, if we're having my one sales guy having a bad sales month, like we have trouble, right? We've added a lot of features to the product. I think, as not everything works perfectly, so we have some bugs we got to fix once in a while. So like all those kind of growing pains that we've gone through, I think we're through most of that at this point, and expect us to get closer to 1,300 or so customers by the end of the year, based on our growth rate. So, and also hit cash flow break even. That's our goal for the end of the year, which is unusual and somewhat rare for our early stage startup.
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, what I'll say about that section, what I want to say about that section is, when you said growth is not a straight line, I really want the people who are watching this and listening to understand like that fact, because I think there's this perception of like, hey, I'm going to start a business and of course it's easy.
Yeah.
It's like hit the easy button. Oh, we're rich.
Right.
And that's just like, it's like, no, start a business. And then it's like this spaghetti. And then somehow you get out the other side of it. So I love that part of your story, Pete.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and most people just share the positive news, so it's like you don't know that there's ever you think of those companies out there, they never have a hiccup. But I guarantee you that even the companies that are like you think are untouchable are having plenty of hiccups.
Yeah, and if they aren't, that's where warning comes in.
Yeah, exactly. Something's not quite right. So
cool.
Awesome. So yeah, having fun.
All right, and that's another episode of Wayfinding Growth. It's time for us to set sail. Community, I want to thank you for your engagement and your listenership. Of course, this is all about you. If you do have topics that you want us to cover, make sure you hit us up. It's wg@impulsecreative.com. You'll get a hold of Remington and myself. Make sure you go over to the YouTubes, hit that bell for instant notifications, hit the subscribe button while you're there. And if you're on the move, then make sure you check us out on iTunes as well. Of course, that means Spotify, Stitcher, all those places. Make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and review, or maybe a couple stars and some nice words. But until next time, make sure you are doing what you can do to make your business successful, and make sure you're heading out away from that dock of mediocrity into the shore of success.